Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us from near and from far. Well, thanks to modern technology, we are gathered from different states. Some of us are joining live. I'm aware folks are listening in from Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, Indiana, Virginia, and North Carolina, to name a few, from parts of Canada, and perhaps even from Italy. And many others will view the recording of tonight from around the world. I am Sally Durstein, and I'd like to warmly welcome each of you tonight. I have been greatly looking forward to sharing the virtual stage with Cheryl Denise, a remarkably talented woman, and the reason we're gathered this evening. We are in for a delightful treat, and it's wonderful to see you, Cheryl.
Thanks, Sally.
So before I introduce Cheryl, a few words about our time together. Tonight, we'll have the pleasure of listening to Cheryl read poems from her third poetry collection called Fences. And this book follows her two other books, I Saw God Dancing and What's in the Blood. We'll also hear some singing and some words from Cheryl's publisher, Michael King. You're also welcome to chat if you'd like. There's a chat button, and if you'd like to make comments throughout, you're welcome to do that. And then after we formally end our time together around 8, we'll open up the option for each of us to see each other. Cheryl will then make a few introductions. And of course, you can choose to have your camera on or off. So if you're in your curlers and your pajamas, that's up to you. So it is a privilege for me to introduce Cheryl Denise to you tonight. Cheryl grew up in Elmira, Ontario. She went to the red brick Mennonite church next to the white clapboard Old Order meeting house. And in winter, she, along with neighbor kids, skated on the ice of flooded backyards, made snow forts, and played King of the Hill. In summer, they played hide and seek for hours. And at 14, she started working after school at the Elmira nursing home. Well, after graduating from nursing school, Cheryl went into VS, which is voluntary service at La Jara, Colorado, where she worked as a public health nurse. Cheryl then met her future husband, Mike Miller, who was in VS there, and they worked at a homeless shelter. Well, after getting married, they moved to West Virginia and became service adventure leaders. Now they live in the intentional community of Shepherd's Field near Philippi, West Virginia, in a timber-framed home they built themselves when they were young and full of energy. And you can see Cheryl is sitting there right now. So Cheryl works as a nurse with seniors and disabled persons. She enjoys biking, hiking, and cross-country skiing with Mike and their good dog, Berkey. And on a personal note, I first met Cheryl about 30 years ago when my cousin Mike started dating her. Well, I was eager to meet this girl from Canada. I adore all my cousins, Mike being one of them, 4 years younger than me. He was a cute little guy who our grandpa Gottschall would refer to lovingly as the Pillsbury Doughboy. So Google that if you don't remember the cute little character with the round belly and the cute little giggle. So my earliest memory of Mike was when I'd get off the bus from kindergarten and I'd run into the house and play hide and seek with him when he was 2. Well, back to Cheryl, it didn't take long to be quite pleased with Mike's selection in picking his wife. And I'm really grateful, Cheryl, how you have enhanced our family's gene pool with your special spark, your creativity, and your gift with words. And one of the gifts, one more mention that Cheryl gave to our extended family, I believe this was before you were a published author. She would read children's books at our family reunions, usually books that Aunt Jerry would bring. And we always appreciated how the words and the feelings and the images just flowed from her lips. And by the way, you never know when you might show up in one of Cheryl's poems. And I'm honored this was the case for me with her latest book. So Cheryl, we look forward to hearing you read in a way that only you can read some of your poems that you selected from your latest book, Fences.
Thanks, Sally. And Everyone, thanks for coming, and a really, really big thank you to Sally and Jen. I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. And it means a lot to me to have family and friends on here from far away. And it's great to have a chance to read with you tonight, or read to you tonight. So thanks for being here. And the first poem I'll read is called Where I'm From. Where I'm from. I'm from clotheslines off back porches, from pickle brine and cooked cheese, from a mother who made us kids sniff horseradish at the first sign of a cold. I'm from shape notes, knitting needles and pickling corn, ink stains and silver typeset, Dad's Heidelberg press, forever snorting like a stallion in the old chicken coop. From neighbor kids, flooding the backyard for hockey, imagining ourselves as Wayne Gretzky and Bobby Orr. I'm from a giant white Bible on a coffee table with a picture of Solomon about to split a baby in two. I'm from home-sewn bathing suits, accordion lessons, breaking curfew and smoking players, Gloria Vanderbilt jeans and Farrah Fawcett hair. From a mother who had 2 dates in one night, a father who snuck out of the parsonage to see South Pacific at that verboten movie house. From a grandfather who refused to go to war, sent west to fight forest fires instead, while his wife gave birth on a poultry farm. I'm from recycled ancestors, the ones I can't name and don't understand, but who somehow survive in my bones, grounding me here to this place where I'm from. So the book is called Fences, and there are several poems in here about fences and borders and boundaries, both real and imagined. The artwork on the cover comes from a painting by a friend of mine, Becca Conrad Whitehead, and it's a beautiful cover. And Becca and I were in VS together in La Jara, Colorado. Fences 2. Yesterday, 2 rams broke through the barbed wire and wandered the woods farther and farther. Forced to trespass for hours, I shook a bucket of feed, calling Merlin, Odie. Had my old roommate Becca been here, she would have told me when to stop, knowing they'd come home, come dark. In Durango, she layers colors on wooden panels, then sands, scratches, repeats. Painted fences, corralled sunlight, red climbing hills. She says, when 2 fences don't meet, the space between is called no man's land. No one owns it, anyone can use it. But I prefer to stay inside my fences, patch holes, latch gates, walk narrow, well-worn paths. Becca's split rail fences meander like bands of preschoolers holding hands on a field trip. They wander into pockets of sky, become transparent. She calls her collection boundaries, but her fences keep nothing out, nothing in. So as Sally said, I grew up in Elmira, Ontario, and then I went to nursing school. And then after nursing school, I went to the States into voluntary service for a job as a public health nurse. And after I'd been in the VS unit for about a year, Mike joined us. And before Mike joined us, it was Becca, Lori, and I, and we got along great. It was just a great VS unit. And we weren't sure we wanted anyone new. And we were kind of afraid to meet Mike In fact, we were so afraid we had a party before he came, just in case he was all wholesome and the kind that wanted to sing hymns Friday nights. But he ended up being okay. And although I didn't intend to, I fell in love with an American, and I've lived in the States ever since. But still, every once in a while, I get homesick. Borders. At the border between past and future, no caution signs advise, slippery roads ahead, slow down, make a U-turn when safe. No roomy-eyed cop waits at Wagner's corner, cocks his head through the window and warns, you know, when you come back, everything's going to be the same, but you'll feel like a traitor. But already you've gassed it down the QEW, along with all the other jalopies, hot rods, and minivans, 3 lanes of traffic, horns, exhaust fumes, tractor trailers, block signs for off-ramps. You couldn't change course if you tried. You crest the sky bridge, a new horizon beckons, like a lost friend you never had. And you think, surely she will help you find yourself. So you ignore the final duty-free shop, stuffed with maple leaf souvenirs you'll want later. And now you wait in line while that German shepherd that lunged at you as a kid circles your rusty Toyota. Then suddenly Carl, the bully from grade 2, bounds out of a booth. Anything to declare? You want to say your freedom, a sovereign mind, but a joke could send you back to your childhood. And now you're winding up a gravel road, living on a community farm, chasing sheep, raising chicks, fixing poetry in the college basement with an English prof, a cross-dresser, and a preacher who writes science fiction. It bothers you that people here leave their shoes on in the house, admit they're hungry when asked only once, that no one makes butter tarts or goes curling Friday nights. Years pass. Still some days you ache for walks that lead to your sister's flower beds. When you hear plans for the new arena, you dream of an invitation to come home, read your hockey poem. Your old schoolmates will stomp and howl. You imagine all they remember is the girl who failed grade 2, who later rinsed diapers in the hopper at the nursing home when it seemed everyone else was a rising Malcolm Gladwell. But even though you unfurled and became bold, reading poems on the radio, still, some days, roaming these hills, you wish for a family crisis, an unexpected surgery, anything to pull you north for a month, maybe 2, pretending you could stay. So Mike and I live on a farm that several families share, and we call the place Shepherd's Field. And this next poem is about a morning when it was my turn to feed the sheep. And I went to the barn and I found a newborn lamb, and the lamb looked dead. Early morning in the barn. Newborn lamb, face swathed in mucus, chest flat and still, legs splayed, mother uselessly licking her side. I grasp her hind legs, swing her in an arc again and again, as if on a ride at the fair. And just like that kid that let go a stomach of cotton candy and corn dogs, she spews the white phlegm, gasps, and I give her back to her mother. It worked, just as it said it would, in Raising Sheep the Modern Way, written in 1976, a gift from Dennis, who said, "Read this, we'll raise sheep, start a community. What can go wrong?" But so much did. Wells went dry, the driveway washed out, lightning struck the tractor shed. The sheep escaped to wander with the neighbors' Holsteins a whole summer. At our meeting every fall, Dennis suggests we keep raising sheep, or each just flush $200 down the toilet. It saves on property taxes, I offer. I can't explain how those noisy wool bodies soften me, like a margarita after work. That lamb went to market or escaped in the woods, was eaten by coyotes or dogs, or maybe made it to motherhood and is chewing her cud in the barn. I never learned her markings, never named her, the only thing I ever saved. The next poem is called What Sustains Me. And after I read this next poem, three very dear women to me, my mother-in-law, Mary Miller, and her sister, my aunt, Glenda Landis, and my cousin, Sally Durstein, will sing a couple of hymns. So that will follow right after this poem. What sustains me? The long line of horse and buggies that clip-clop to church Sunday mornings sound like tree frogs on the hillside. Redtails riding thermals while four poets on the porch prune their metaphors. Mom's bear hug and laughter when I was a girl, when I asked why Grandpa, who was normally happy, yelled when he preached, madly shaking his fist. The bright pom-poms tying the black shawls of old order women, that one autumn when they were allowed a dollop of color, lime green, Macintosh red, orange, fuchsia, and turquoise. An old dog asleep in a sunbeam. The Indian tribe that says all creation stories are true. The bearded man who says many creation stories start with revenge, battles, and poison, but ours starts with a word, a breath. The Egyptian prophet who buys a lamb to remember Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son. He chooses our best, binds the lamb's legs with electrical tape, gently heaves him into the trunk of his BMW. Early morning fog rolling off the pond. My husband, who turns the sanctuary into a wood shop. For Sunday worship, we build houses for barred owls. My 105-year-old grandma in her apartment, singing hymns.
When my life's work is ended and I cross the swirling tide, when the bright and glorious morning I shall see, I shall know my Redeemer when I reach the other side, and his smile will be the first to welcome me. I shall know him, I shall know him. As redeemed by his side, I shall stand. I shall know him, I shall know him by the print of the nails in his hand. Dear ones in glory, how they beckon me to come. I shall know him, I shall know him, as redeemed by his heart I shall stand. I shall know him, I shall know him, by the print of the nails in his hand. When we walk with the Lord in the light of his word, what a glory he shines around. While we do his good will, he abides with us still, and with all who will trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey. Not a burden we bear, not a sorrow we share, but our toil he doth richly repay. Not a grief nor a loss, not a frown nor a but to blessed we trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey.
Well, thank you. And even with the slight technical difficulties, that was wonderful. And thank you three for doing that. Such a joy to hear your voices. And that just went so well with that last poem. A pleasure hearing you. And now I'd like to introduce my gracious, patient, encouraging, supportive, and joyful publisher, Michael King. Michael is the owner and publisher of Cascadia Publishing House. He has been Dean of Eastern Mennonite Seminary and Vice President of Eastern Mennonite University. He's written several articles in magazines and journals, including Christian Century. He's the author of several books, and his latest, a children's book called Little Girl Squirrel Watches TV, with illustrations from his grandkids. He is the proud graduate of Ebenezer Mennonite Kindergarten, where he was taught by Anna Lehman, who offered an insightful blend of mentoring him versus recognizing when it was time for him to face a corner and ruminate on his sins. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Cheryl, for that gracious introduction. I am delighted to be involved with this event and delighted to participate with you, Cheryl, and with Sally and Jen. And according to my screen, there are about 60 participants. So a wonderful community of support and poetry, which leads me to the reality that I have been pro poetry as a person, but anti poetry as a publisher historically. Now, the story behind that is that I was first involved in publishing as a book editor for Herald Press. And Herald Press had a long-standing policy, possibly still today, though I don't know, that poetry was too marginal at the level of finances to publish. So I spent many a time rejecting good poetry submissions while I was at Herald Press as book editor. I was downsized in the early days of financial challenges at Herald Press and Mennonite Publishing House. Out of that came Cascadia Publishing House. I continued the reluctance to publish poetry and get very little credit for the fact that it has ended up being a key part of Cascadia Publications, because the people who deserve credit would be folks like Julia Spiker Kasdorf, Ann Hostetler, uh, trying to think of the many out there who I should actually name because there are so many. David Wright, Gene Jansen, Jeff Gundy. I don't know if any of you, I can't see who's actually on. I don't know if any of you are on, but any of you named and any of you who are part of being published poets with Cascadia deserve a lot of credit for the fact that we're having this event with poet Cheryl. Now, Cheryl herself uh, played a key role in that, starting with, I think, the third book of poetry Cascadia released at the urging of the types of folks that I named a few minutes ago. Um, we developed the Dream Seeker Poetry Series, and Cheryl was the author of number 2 entry in the series. For the first 4 or so volumes in the series, Jean Jansen, wonderful poet in her own right, did the series editing for those volumes. So Cheryl would have worked with Gene. And then very key ever after has been Jeff Gundy, who has served for probably close to 20 years now as series editor. And Jeff then did Cheryl's second and third books. And the very most recent entry in the series is Cheryl's Fences, which she's read from, which is volume 20. So she began with volume 2 and went through the middle of the series and with her second entry, and then is currently the most recent published author in the Dream Seeker Poetry series. Now, to contextualize and honor Cheryl herself, I was looking at her 3 books with Cascadia and was struck that the blurbs, which of course are supposed to say nice things, and they do, but they also track really meaningfully and I think movingly Cheryl's career as a poet. So I'm just going to pull out a few blurb excerpts as part of my response to Cheryl's involvement tonight. One is from John Ruth, longtime historian, now in his 90s, who says of Cheryl's first book, I Saw God Dancing, how often in adult life do we hear an unspoiled voice? Here is one that is playful, friendly, youthful, humble, wistful, gently ironic, humorous, local, tender, irreverently reverent. And adds my no-nonsense wife, Roma, honest, get us a copy. Classic John Ruth. Then What's in the Blood, the second book from Cheryl in the Dream Seeker Poetry series. We have John again, sort of picking up the trajectory. Cheryl Denise's lines bleed juice and blood. She lets us look with demure erotic humor at what is at once or once was next to our skin from church to barnyard. When you quote pungent snatches to friends you know aren't quickly offended, they'll enjoy with you the sharp sounds of skates or an auctioneer's voice like river water over stones. And Julia Kasdorf, uh, who spans all 3 of the books as a commentator, picks up on the sweep of movement involved in these 2 volumes. In Cheryl's second collection, readers will recognize some delights from her previous book, I Saw God Dancing, plain spoken narratives set in rural landscapes, charged with her own abandon and exuberance. But here we also find frank meditations on violence and life's many labors. Her lines have grown tighter, her voice deeper. These are poems with meat on their bones. And finally, Fences, just out. There's great stuff from multiple commentators, but I really like this sweet short finale of a paragraph by Doug Van Gundy, who says that Cheryl's poems are full of heart and grace. reminding us that it is a blessing to be wonderfully, imperfectly, perfectly human. So from the early history of the series to the very present, Cheryl Denise, an honor to work with you, Cheryl, and a delight to experience your poetry.
Cheryl, I'd just like to add for the group that we told you you could make comments in the chat. That doesn't seem to be working. Instead, if you click on the Q&A, that is where you can chat if you'd like to. Thanks.
Thanks, Sally, for keeping us flowing. And thank you so much, Michael. And thank you for the ones that paved the way for me. And it was such a joy working with Jean Jansen and then Jeff Gundy on the last two. And so many people that have gone before me, so many people that have taught me. And to have a publisher like Michael King, who I just feel like gets me and understands me. And anyway, thank you. Thank you. So this next poem is called The Trouble with Stylists. The trouble with stylists, they talk. Daughters running for fair queen, strapless gowns and stilettos. What teacher did what for no good reason? Whose husbands cheat and why? I don't know how to enter this talk, how to stop it. Years ago, when smoking was still in vogue, a stylist lit a cigarette, curled the white smoke above my head. She had scissors. I said nothing, while she, tethered to a coiled phone cord, orchestrated rides, childcare, dinner duties. Why can't beauty be quiet? Like meditation or prayer, incense burning for us, the divine, in our gray plastic capes. I want a poet to color my hair, to be her only friend for this hour. She could talk Bible stories, folk tales, myths, the old knowing, women intuitive and brave as her hands scrub my scalp. I don't like to think myself vain. I asked my sister, and she said, I can dye my hair another 8 years. It took almost 2 to find medium ash blonde. I've dreamt of going platinum, eyebrow wax and manicures. My stylist asks if I need a little glitter in the hair gel, as if this is ordinary. Me, 50, and dreaming of being a Breck girl on the back cover of 17. I loved those Breck girls. They were so beautiful. So a few years ago, I was home alone and I had a panic attack. And later, my husband wanted me to explain what happened. And I said I couldn't. And he said, well, you should be able to. You're a poet. And that really pissed me off. Panic attack. My husband leans toward me, eyes soft as summer, waiting for me to speak, wanting to fix me, as if I am an engine or leaky faucet, as if he can wrench the words out, rearrange my thoughts, and piece me back together. Like someone scratching inside my skull, I cry, a sharp wind scraping my skin, a slow motion funnel cloud, a lightning strike. My hands, my mind, my stomach, singed pieces flying everywhere, in the kitchen, the living room, outside the picture window, wavering above the grass. Someone tosses me away, piece by piece, as if it's a game, as if they're in charge, ordering me to sit down, be quiet. I like to do as I'm told. I want to pass, but I failed grade 2 and liked it. Easier the second time with the new kids who didn't know about that afternoon I wet my pants during math. The second year, I knew some answers and waved my arm. My husband keeps looking at me, keeps probing. I want him to stop. I don't tell him how I pulled over on my trip to Elora last fall, wrote him a letter, instructions, permission on how and when to leave me, how I kept it 3 months in the glove compartment, then tore it up, buried it in gas station trash. What I do say is all the colors turn off and my insides jabber and tell lies, and my dark red meat twitches like I am full of candy bars and coffee, like I need to sprint around my old high school track until I collapse.
Hi, Sally. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay. Can you make them see me, Mike?
Excellent.
Okay. So we're trying to get, it's a snowy night here and our Wi-Fi went out and I'm now using Mike's phone. But I don't think you can see me. But I'll keep reading.
Wonderful.
Okay. Did you hear the ending of that last poem or no?
We did not. Yeah. If you
Okay.
could-
Okay, I'll try and start from somewhere in the middle there. Meanwhile, all the pieces fly farther and farther, dispersing in the hayfield, slow and impossible as that puzzle in the back of my second grade class my teacher wanted me to finish. The pieces must fit together. I gather as many as I can. I don't know where I begin, where I end. My husband and my teacher settled together again at the big desk in the back, waiting. So that was the end of the panic attack poem. Should I keep reading, Mike? I guess I'll keep reading. He's trying to connect our Wi-Fi too. So I grew up in a neighborhood with lots of kids and we played outside all the time. And some days as an adult, I long for that magic that I felt as a kid. And this is called Blowing Dandelion Seeds. This is how a wish is made. Wade figurines, green sea turtle, brown beaver, now gone. Prizes found in boxes of red rose tea. 3 sisters leapt from bed to bed over a river of beige carpet full of alligators. When our mood rings turned violet, we told wild stories. Truth or dare lived under the pine tree, tall as knowledge. After supper, hide and seek, safety on Mrs. Fry's back stoop. Now I look everywhere for that little girl. That wonder can't be lost forever. Tomorrow, white-throated sparrows will help me find it again. And our Wi-Fi is still out, so I'm still using Mike's phone.
We hear you loud and clear, Cheryl. Keep right on going. Well, we did. Maybe the snow came back.
And there we go. Am I there?
You are.
Hello. Okay. So Mike's holding this, so we'll do what we can. Okay. Thank you all for your patience. I've got two more poems. And this next one I wrote for my parents for their 50th wedding anniversary. What I've learned from my parents: to be content collecting a dish pattern from Texaco, to turn a chicken coop into bombin printing, to refashion a wedding gown into a skirt for a bassinet, to know the call of a cardinal, that a home needs classical music, 96.3, whether anyone is listening or not, that cross-country skiing trumps work, trumps almost anything, that it's important to listen. If someone is eroding, let him sleep in the basement, invite him to choir practice, to always carry hard candy in my pockets, to soften a daughter's failure with French fries and gravy, to shingle the roof side by side with the guy who tried to rob your shop, to say God is great and God is good, to lie on the floor ready to give plane rides, to tuck 3 girls into bed, then go quietly back to work. I learned to baste a turkey with ginger ale and not cry if the green beans fall on the floor, to sing Elvis Presley and shake my hips at Christmas without wine or spiked eggnog, to find homes for boat people from Laos, that beginnings can flare wearing horsehair crinoline, saddle shoes, and Brell cream, that love can fill 50 years and more. And for my last poem, I'll read the final poem of the book, again with the sheep. Today, the calendar says, write poetry before getting up, before leaving that watery time. But outside my window, 2 sheep are on the wrong side of the fence, as if the fence were just a suggestion. This is a community farm, but the men are gone. The men are always gone when the sheep get out. Shutting my notebook, I plunge my feet in black boots and trudge to the barn, find the feed can empty. Buddha says, breathe deep, even, gentle. I try. Damn men. I shake a small bribe in a yellow bucket, yell, Sarah, Sarah. I call every you Sarah, after that good one, that Suffolk who went to market years ago. She ate from our hands, led the flock where we said. Again, I jostle the feed, and the 2 impudent ewes fling up their faces and take off bleeding, chasing me to the barn. But at the open door, they stop, understanding the trick. They stomp, turn. Dirty wool balls bound down the field. Panting, I phone Manette. Sheep, out, tried, can't. She comes in her magical calm, and the ewes, as if deciding she is the good shepherd, trot into the barn behind her. With that done, we walk the fence line, search for holes, tufts of pulled wool on barbed wire. I apologize for interrupting her morning. She laughs. It is what it is. Her mantra for anything that goes awry. Unable to leave, I sit watching the flock, and they watch me. I am dissolving into the wide black slots of their pupils. With hard yellow teeth, they yank clumps of grass. Jaws jut side to side. They baa as if their mouths are full of marbles, as if to say we are content and intend to stay. With that, they send me home. Thank you all.